It is April of 2007. A high-speed SUV is tearing down a parkway in the northeastern United States. Inside is a man who has reached the absolute pinnacle of human success. He has been the chief executive officer of one of the most powerful investment banks on Wall Street. He has served as a United States senator. At this very moment, he is the sitting governor of a major state. He is a man whose life has been defined by high-stakes calculations, risk management, and the cold, hard logic of global finance. Suddenly, the vehicle swerves, hits a guardrail, and rolls. The governor is airlifted to a trauma center with multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, and lacerations so severe they require 7 units of blood and a mechanical ventilator just to keep him alive. He survives by a miracle. But as the investigators sift through the wreckage, they find something baffling. This man, this brilliant, wealthy, powerful leader, was not wearing his seatbelt. Even more disturbing, his security detail had begged him for years to buckle up, and he simply refused. How does a man who understands the complexities of the global economy fail to understand the simple mechanics of a nylon strap? Was he lacking information? Did he not know that seatbelts save lives? Of course he knew. He did not have a knowledge deficit. He had a behavior deficit. And this is the mystery we are going to unravel today. We live under the grand illusion that humans are rational creatures. We believe that if you give people better information, they will make better choices. But the reality is that the human mind is a high-resistance pathway. Changing a mind is hard, but changing behavior is a different game entirely. Our brains are not supercomputers running logic gates. They are ancient organs running prehistoric software that was never designed for the 21st century. To understand why a brilliant man ignores a seatbelt, we have to look at the evolutionary engine that drives us. Imagine you are a hunter-gatherer living 50,000 years ago. Your world is defined by immediate threats and immediate rewards. If you find a beehive dripping with honey, you eat it all right now. You do not save it for a rainy day because there might not be a tomorrow. Our ancestors survived because they were masters of the present. This created a neurological reflex we call present bias. At a brain level, your limbic system, which manages emotions and survival, is constantly shouting over your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles long-term planning. The limbic system wants the dopamine hit today, and it views your future self as a complete stranger. This is why we struggle with something as mundane as a diet. Imagine you are standing in your kitchen and there is a thick, moist slice of chocolate cake on the counter. Your rational brain knows that if you eat it, it will settle on your waistline and move you further from your health goals. But the cake is right there. It is tangible. It smells of cocoa and sugar. The diet, on the other hand, is an abstract concept that pays off in 6 months. To your ancient brain, the cake is a certain gain today, while the health benefit is a fuzzy maybe tomorrow. We are hardwired to choose the cake every single time, unless we intervene. Now, take that same reflex and apply it to a high-stakes systemic issue like hypertension. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer because you cannot feel it. A doctor tells a patient that if they take a small pill every morning, they can reduce their risk of a stroke in 10 years. But that stroke is a decade away. It is invisible. The act of taking the pill is a chore that happens right now. Because we cannot feel the math of the future, nearly half of all patients prescribed these life-saving medications stop taking them within a single year. They are not stupid. They are just human. They are falling victim to the same neurological reflex that kept our ancestors alive during a famine, but now kills us in an age of abundance. Oh, but our irrationality goes deeper than just being short-sighted. We are also obsessed with the impossible dream. Consider the lottery. If you look at the statistics, a state lottery is a terrible investment. The odds of winning are so low that you are more likely to be struck by lightning while being eaten by a shark. And yet, Millions of people line up every week to buy tickets. Some people call this a tax on people who are bad at math, but it is more accurate to say it is a tax on people who can feel. We overestimate the value of small probabilities because our brains are not built to distinguish between a 1 in a million chance and a 1 in a billion chance. To the primitive mind, there is only zero and maybe. And maybe is a very intoxicating feeling. We can see this play out in a high-stakes corporate environment. Imagine you are working in an office where everyone is chipping in $20 for a massive lottery pool with a jackpot of over $1 billion. You know the math. You know it is a waste of money. But then a cold shiver runs down your spine. What if they win? The thought of walking into the office on Monday morning and being the only person there because all your colleagues are currently on a private island is unbearable. You are not buying a ticket because you expect to win. You are buying a ticket to avoid the crushing weight of regret. We hate the idea of missing out more than we love the idea of gaining. This fear of regret is a powerful tool. Researchers have started using it to save lives in hospitals. Instead of just telling patients to take their medicine, they give them an electronic pill bottle tied to a daily lottery. If the patient takes their pill, they are entered into a drawing for $100. If they do not take their pill and their number comes up, they get a notification that says, "You would have won $100 today, but you did not take your medicine yesterday, so you get nothing." Oh, it turns out that people absolutely hate that feeling. They will take their medicine just to avoid the possibility of that specific regret. We are using a psychological flaw, our irrational obsession with small prizes and missing out, to create a reflex for health. Another hidden engine of the mind is the power of the default. Our brains are cognitive misers. We want to spend as little energy as possible on making decisions. This is why we often take the path of least resistance without even thinking. There is a famous example involving the restrooms in a major international airport. For years, they struggled with cleanliness around the urinals. Then, someone had a brilliant idea. They etched a small, realistic image of a common housefly near the drain of the urinal. It sounds ridiculous, but it worked. Why? Because men have an instinctive drive to aim at a target. By providing a default target, the airport reduced spillage by 80%. They did not give a lecture on hygiene. They did not hand out brochures. They just worked with the natural reflex of the human brain. We see this same principle saving tens of millions of dollars in healthcare. In one major hospital system, doctors were consistently prescribing expensive brand-name drugs when cheap generic versions were just as effective. The hospital tried everything. Education sessions, memos, meetings. Nothing worked then. They changed one tiny thing in the computer software. They made the generic version the default option. If a doctor wanted the brand-name drug, they had to uncheck a box. That was it. Overnight, generic prescribing shot up to nearly 100%. The hospital saved $32 million in 2.5 years. They did not change the doctors' minds. They just made the right choice, the easiest choice. But we must be careful, because these tools can backfire if we do not understand the underlying social contract. Imagine a daycare center that is tired of parents picking up their children late. They decide to implement a fine of 10 shekels, about $3, for every late arrival. What do you think happened? Late pickups actually increased. By putting a price on lateness, they turned a social obligation into a market transaction. Before the fine, parents felt guilty for inconveniencing the teachers. They had an intrinsic motivation to be on time. But once the fine was introduced, they thought, for $3, I can buy an extra 30 minutes of childcare. What a bargain! Even worse, when the daycare realized their mistake and removed the fine, the lateness stayed high. The sense of social duty was poisoned. Once you turn a relationship into a transaction, it is very hard to go back. This brings us to perhaps the most powerful engine of all, the social mirror. We are profoundly tribal creatures. We are constantly scanning our environment to see what others are doing, and, more importantly, to see if others are watching us. We behave better when we think we are being witnessed. There was a fascinating study in an intensive care unit where hand-washing rates were dangerously low. The researchers tried signs and reminders, but nothing moved the needle. Then, they placed a photograph of a pair of eyes over the sink. Just a pair of eyes. Hand-washing rates more than doubled. Wow, we are so sensitive to social observation that even a picture of eyes triggers a reflex to follow the rules. We model our behavior on those we admire, often without realizing it. Think back to the 1960s. There was a popular television show about a caped crusader and his youthful sidekick. In almost every episode, the camera would zoom in on their laps as they buckled their seatbelts in their high-tech car. In an era when seatbelts were still optional, and many people ignored them, these fictional heroes were normalizing a life-saving habit. If a superhero needs a seatbelt, then surely a normal person does too. This kind of social modeling is far more effective than 1,000 government public service announcements because it bypasses the rational brain and speaks directly to our desire to belong and to emulate. So, what if we stopped trying to be perfectly rational? What if we accepted that we are flawed, impulsive, and deeply influenced by the people around us? The goal of behavioral economics is not to condemn our irrationality. After all, the same parts of the brain that make us crave chocolate cake also give us the capacity for art, courage, and love. Our quirks are what make us human. But by recognizing the predictable ways in which we stumble, we can design a world that catches us before we fall. We can use defaults to make the right choice the easy one. We can use the fear of regret to help people stay healthy. We can use the power of the tribe to encourage kindness and safety. Now, I want you to take a moment and look at your own life. Look at the habits you struggle to break and the goals you fail to reach. Stop asking yourself why you are not being more rational. Instead, start looking for the hidden engines. Are you fighting against a default? Are you falling for the trap of the present? Are you ignoring the power of the social mirror? The most rational thing you can do is to acknowledge your own irrationality. It is the first step toward taking control of the software running inside your head. Audit your surroundings. Change your defaults, and perhaps, the next time you step into a vehicle, you will think of a powerful governor, a caped crusader, and the simple, irrational reflex that might just save your life. Stay curious, and keep looking under the hood of your own mind. More deep dives are coming soon.